book lovers. It is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about some popular authors that I have not yet read. So this is a 7 on Sunday topic, and I am the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out, and you can participate in a topic in the future, or you can suggest a topic. And this week's topic I've wanted to do because I have noticed that there are a bunch of authors on my shelf that I have not yet read, and they are pretty hyped up here on the bookternet, and I kind of want to have a tracking point for where I can look at new alternatives. Sometimes I make these topics so I can encourage myself to pick the books up. I love making TBR related videos because they essentially help me keep track of what needs to be read next, and I reckon that I need to get onto these authors as soon as possible, but I mean, no pressure. Unintentionally, I ended up selecting a bunch of romance authors to be on this list, and I had no idea. Like, I wasn't actually coordinating a romance author TBR. I mean, in terms of romance, not strictly romance contemporary, fantasy romance and paranormal romance are also going to be featured here in this video today. I hope to get to these sometime soon, so I guess without further ado, let's get straight into this list where I talk about the popular authors that I have not yet read. I am living under a rock, I know. The first author I have on this list today is Abby Jimenez, who wrote Part of Your World, also the Friend Zone series. I have heard great things about Abby Jimenez's work, and I also saw Part of Your World on favorites list for 2022. This book was making its rounds last year, and the Friend Zone series is still doing a pretty good job in terms of staying relevant, but I haven't read Abby Jimenez's works yet. I always see Abby Jimenez's works in a bookstore well stocked in the romance section, and I've always been curious, but I've also been unsure as to whether or not I will enjoy these. Like, they might just be basic contemporary romances with not much flavor. Maybe they have a good plot, or they could be the best thing since sliced bread. I really actually don't know what to expect from these books. I just hear good things about them. I don't know anything else beyond the reviews that I've seen for them. Also, I've just noticed that Emily Henry blurbed this book saying that Jimenez is a true talent. You know what? I've got to trust Emily Henry here. I've got to pick Abby Jimenez's books up. She's also got another book coming out this year as well. I don't know whether it's part of the same series because the covers don't look similar whatsoever, but I've heard that they are part of the same companion series. As some of you guys might know, I do love myself a good romance companion series, so I'm hoping to get into Abby Jimenez's ones pretty soon. Moving on to a paranormal romance author, I have Karen Marie Moaning still on my TBR. So I have the first 5 books in the Dark Fever series on my physical TBR, but I plan to read all 11 books that are set in this universe. I don't know if the series expands beyond that, but from what I've seen so far, there are 11 books set in this universe. Now, since my earliest days of booktube, I have seen some hype surrounding Karen Marie Moaning. I know that almost everyone, including myself, likes to criticize these covers, and we kind of just want something new for the series. I am even seeing Arcane Society special edition requests for the series non-stop in the Facebook page. Everyone keeps on bringing it on the Arcane Society Facebook group. Like, they're so desperate for it, and the Arcane Society usually pick independently published books up. So this seems to be a little bit of a difficult situation, but if the Arcane Society picks this series up, then yes, I will definitely be jumping onto those new editions. Because as much as I really want to read the series, I keep on missing these mass market paperbacks on my shelves. I'm not necessarily motivated to get into the series, and I think it's because I hide them. I'm just not a fan of the mass market paperback look sometimes. And look, these covers aren't all that bad. There are worse mass market paperbacks out there. However, compared to a bunch of the other books on my TBR, these ones don't really stand out. I mean, they stand out in their own way. Like, when I say their own way, I mean like a sore thumb way, you know? That all being said, because I keep on talking about the cover and not about the actual book, I really need to get onto the series. I've heard that this series is like a good transition from young adult paranormal into new adult paranormal. I am already into new adult paranormal. A good way to transition, in my opinion, is The Demon Queen Trials by C.N. Crawford. That's a very good series, but because I recently really loved The Demon Queen Trials, I really want to read Karen Marie Moaning even more, because as much as I adore new adult fantasy romance, there are so many other paranormal series that I want to get to, but before getting to those paranormal series, I would love to prioritize Dark Fever and the author who kind of started it all. I wouldn't say that she started it all, but this series seems to be one of those cornerstones in the paranormal romance book community. Karen Marie Moaning, she did that, so I gotta get onto it. And the next author I have to mention that I have not yet read read is Lauren Asher, who kind of blew up on Book Talk and in the Bookstagram community. Last year, I kept on going on Bookstagram, and I just noticed how many people were posting about The Fine Print and this series, and also her other series as well. Throttled, I believe the first book is. Everyone was talking about those series last year, and I still have not yet read The Dreamland Billionaires or any other series by Lauren Asher. I've talked about the series previously on my channel. This series, from what I know so far, is pretty much based on Disneyland as a theme park, or like any theme park essentially. We are following a family of theme park owners. I believe that the first book follows the heir to this fortune, and I don't know if the two other brothers or two other people in the family also inherit the fortune. Pretty sure that they do, based on the fact that this is the Dreamland Billionaires series. It's a companion series about rich people. That's all there is to it. I am very much curious about the series because of all the hype that it's getting, and I reckon that it might just be a good comp to the Twisted series by Anna Huang, because the Twisted series does have royals in the series, so I'm wondering if it is anything like Anna Huang's Twisted series, where there's a balance of rich people stuff and smut. We'll see how we go with the series. I just want to read the series for a good time at the end of the day. And moving on to a fantasy romance author, I have Amanda Boucher. I see Amanda Boucher's name pop up in recommendations every once in a while, and I was wondering what she wrote, and then when I went to the bookstore, I noticed in the fantasy section that she had this series there. So I picked this book up on Boxing Day. I'm still yet to pick the future books in the series up in the series. The Kingmaker Chronicles is actually a very hyped series, and I know nothing about the series itself. However, the fantasy romance loving community absolutely adores Amanda Boucher, and they would recommend Amanda Boucher to anyone who likes Sarah J Maas or Jennifer L. Armentrout, but Amanda Boucher seems to be kind of a little bit under the radar as opposed to those authors, and honestly I think it's because that the two other authors I just mentioned started off with young adult and moved on to new adult at the time that a lot of us romance readers were starting to move on ourselves and grow up, so that's probably why I've never heard of Amanda Boucher until recently. I was actually honestly surprised to find out that they were such a popular author, because I honestly did not know that until I started engaging with the Instagram and the Facebook bookish communities, which has only been the last year and a half. I'm looking forward to getting to the series, and I hope I love it just as much as the rest of the fantasy romance community loves this series. And the next popular author I still haven't read is Sarah Adams. I am reminded every second week by my work colleague that I need to read the cheat sheet. Every once in a while, I will have a conversation with someone about friends to lovers romances, where they have been done right and where they have been done wrong, and I usually personally always talk about Would You Rather by Alison Ashley and how much I appreciate that book, how much I appreciate the way that the friends to lovers romance is written in that book. However, my work colleague always recommends the cheat sheet, and they talk about how this is probably one of the best friends to lovers romances that they have ever read. So I know that I need to get onto the cheat sheet, but there are so many other Sarah Adams books that I also want to get to. It's just the cheat sheet seems to be the most popular one out there so far. This was the first one I believe to have been picked up by a traditional publisher. It's the first one I saw out in the wild. When I went to Big W, I saw that this was on its shelves, so of course I purchased a copy. And there are other Sarah Adams books that are coming out as well, like Practice Makes Perfect. I love the cover for that one. And also I have When in Rome on my shelves as well. I really want to read Sarah Adams, but I reckon I'm going to start off with the cheat sheet and then move on to her other works. I believe that there are other works out there that might have not been picked up by an Australian publisher yet. I do want to check her works out based on my friend's personal recommendation to me. Like, I know that this is a TikTok sensation. However, I think knowing that I have been recommended this book personally by a friend, and my friend loves it and says it's one of the best romances that they have read, and it's a friends to lovers romance, that is so promising, because it's hard to do the friends to lovers romance very well. This book apparently does it well. The next hyped author that I have not yet read that I have to mention today is Lucy Score. I'm pretty sure all of Lucy Score's backlist is being traditionally published at this point, because everyone and their mother seems to be obsessed with Lucy Score's writing. I don't know what to expect from Lucy Score's books, but what I do know is that she's a very hyped author. Once you get into Lucy Score's books, apparently it's hard to go back. Like, I am just seeing so many fans rave about Lucy Score's work, and like, I want to get in on the hype. I want to read her books eventually. I own the first 2 books in the Knock 'Em Out series, and then I have Maggie Moves On, which I got Camilo to purchase for me because there's a dog on the cover and the dog is absolutely cute. There's nothing else I know about Lucy Score's books except the fact that they are so hyped. So I'm looking forward to them, and I really hope that the hype doesn't get to me, because because as much as I want to be motivated to read these books based on their hype, I also don't want to be disappointed in them. So I will find out whether or not these books are worth the hype. And the next popular author that I still haven't read is Mariana Zapata. So here I have From Lukov with Love. I also have The Best Thing and When Gracie Met the Grump on my TBR. Now, I personally wanted to read Mariana Zapata before hearing about When Gracie Met the Grump. I've talked about When Gracie Met the Grump a lot here on my channel, even though I haven't read it yet. I'm just looking forward to it because it's a superhero romance and we don't really get many of those. I mean, I've read comic books, but I haven't always seen the best romance representation in comic books. But yeah, I'm excited for that book alone just based on its premise. However, in terms of Mariana Zapata herself, I have heard that she's the queen of slow burn. I mean, that label is literally on the back of this book. She's the queen of slow burn romance, apparently. Sometimes I hear that the burn is too slow, but from other people I hear that the slow burn is absolutely worth it. Now, I personally have a friend who one weekend decided that they were going to complete all of Mariana Zapata's backlist. They did so, and they came to work one day and they were just like, Grace, guess what? I spent the entire weekend binging Mariana Zapata's backlist. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Her books are super chunky. And she was like, yeah, I know, but I couldn't help myself. I think ever since I've had that interaction with my friend, I realized that I need to get onto it. I need to read all of her books. She has a big backlist. So I'm not going to expect myself to get to all of them in 2023, but I need to start somewhere, and I don't know whether I should start off with From Lukov with Love or if I should get to When Gracie Met the Grump straight away. I think I'm personally leaning toward reading From Lukov with Love first because I want to know what to expect from Mariana Zapata before going into what could be one of my favorite books ever because I have 5-star predictions for When Gracie Met the Grump. However, I don't want to disappoint myself. Yes, I do want to go into that book fully expecting that it will be a slow burn. However, I want to know how Mariana Zapata writes her slow burn. And From Lukov with Love has very much been hyped for the last 2 years. I feel like the hype still holds up because everyone is still talking about this book. So I need to know what the hype is about. I believe that this was the first book by Mariana Zapata that got picked up by a publisher, and it was the first book I personally heard of from Mariana Zapata. So I think that it's very much fitting that if I was to read Mariana Zapata, that I would start off with From Lukov with Love. So that is my goal. And the second last popular author that I have to mention that I have not yet read is Penelope Douglas, who seems to be a very polarized author here in the book community. And honestly, I have no idea what to expect from Penelope Douglas. All I know personally is that Birthday Girl is an ex-boyfriend's dad romance between like the protagonist who got dumped by her boyfriend or something like that, who gets with her boyfriend's dad. Interesting. And look, that seems to be a lot more common than I thought, because I thought that Birthday Girl seemed to have that abnormal premise, but then I later realized that that is a very common trope in dark taboo romance. I mean, Praise by Sarah Kate has a very similar synopsis, and I'm not opposed to checking that one out. However, with Penelope Douglas's works, I have no idea what to expect beyond knowing the premise of Birthday Girl specifically. So I have Fall Boys here. I believe that this is a new series by Penelope Douglas, and I personally want to check Penelope Douglas's works out because Penelope Douglas is listed to come to Babe 2023. So I'm wondering whether or not I should get into her works in the lead up to Babe to get them signed, and to also see whether or not she would be either a new favorite author of mine or just an author that I would like to read even for a good time. I mean, honestly, like when it comes to Colleen Hoover isn't one of my favorite authors of all time. However, I read some of her books to have a good time, and sometimes I get a really good time. So I don't know if Penelope Douglas will be among similar lines, or maybe, just maybe, Penelope Douglas might be one of my favorite authors of all time. I don't know, we will see, but what I do know is that Penelope Douglas seems to be one of those authors, kind of similar to Coho, but not as blown up as Coho at the moment. Penelope Douglas seems to be one of those authors who divides the book community. You either hate her stuff with a passion, or you love her stuff. It's interesting. I don't think I've ever seen so many mixed opinions about an author beside Penelope Douglas. However, based on what I've seen so far, I would comp how the book community responds to Coho to how the book community responds to Penelope Douglas. But honestly, I don't know if she writes similarly or if she writes differently, or if there are much more controversial topics discussed in Penelope Douglas's book. We will find out together somehow. I have Fall Boys on my shelf. Do I have anything else by Penelope Douglas on my shelf? I think I wanted to purchase Punk 57 as well because I saw that one in my local Target. I might purchase a few more books just so I could get them signed, but I think I need to read Penelope Douglas before going to Babe because I really need to find out whether or not that's worth it. And the final popular author that I have to mention on this list today is an author I have a full series of. I've just started collecting the books in her new series as well, and that my friends, is Carissa Broadbent. So I'm currently holding up The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which is the first book in her Chronicles of Nyaxia. And then I also have the Daughter of No Worlds trilogy on my shelves as well, which I plan to actually get to first. However, as much as I've been seeing buzz about the Daughter of No Worlds trilogy on my shelf, I have heard nothing but great things about Serpent and the Wings of Night. I have a work colleague who is obsessed with this book. This is like their favorite book of the year, and they read it in like January or February. Like, they decided that this was their favorite book of the year because they're so obsessed with it. And I also recently went onto a book community Facebook page where someone was asking for vampire novel recommendations because they were looking for a new vampiric read, and no joke, around 90 to 95% of the comments mentioned The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Personally, I found it absolutely incredible to see the book community band together to recommend this book to this one person who is trying to look for a new vampiric novel, and it very much further inspired me to read Carissa Broadbent. I am constantly getting this recommendation from my work colleague. They are saying it's literally the best thing that they've read so far this year, and they cannot wait for the sequel. I believe that the sequel might already be out by the time that this video goes up. I do plan on reading it. However, as much as I want to read this one straight away, I also want to get to the Daughter of No Worlds trilogy first. I think because I know what to expect with that series in terms of length, and also I have a preference when it comes to trilogies. I know that this is going to be a duology with a novella, but I just want to read a trilogy. I'm not saying that I'm not going to get to this book series. I just want to know what to expect from Carissa Broadbent in a trilogy first. However, additionally, I am also a sucker for backlists. Like, if I'm interested in an author, I would prefer to read their backlist before getting to their front list because I kind of want to see the author's writing progress through their books. So I like to start from the backlist and work my way up sometimes. I'm planning to do that with Carissa Broadbent's works, but I'm showing The Serpent and the Wings of Night off because everyone has been buzzing about this one recently, and also I just received my hardback and I love the way that it looks. It looks absolutely stunning. Now I need to read it, and now I need to read everything from her because I've just heard great things about Carissa Broadbent's works, and I reckon that both her series have the potential to be some of the best books I've ever read in the fantasy romance space. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay till the end of the video, leave me the blue heart emoji, and if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also, I have social medias, @GSwizzleBooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok, @GSwizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it into double. Started out with half and I flipped it into double.